What do you do that for? What the hell do you think you're playing at?
Darling, you mustn't speak to me like that. I think we're about to have a visit from Sergeant Hurby. I have a license for it, Sergeant.
I know.
Yes, of course you would, wouldn't you?
It was an accident, Sergeant.
It wasn't.
Are you suggesting I was trying to hit you?
You hit exactly what you wanted to hit.
As a matter of fact, I fired the shot. You see, recently we've had...
Every now and again, Val gets noble. It never lasts very long. You must allow me to replace the milk.
Spilt milk. No use crying.
I'd like a drink, Val. You'll join us, Sergeant?
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you going to charge me with careless use of firearms or something?
No.
Isn't that rather remiss of you?
I know my duty.
Yes, you do, don't you? You know it perhaps too well.
I don't understand that.
So, you're just a simple countryman. Not enough tonic, darling.
Sorry?
Is that what we're to believe?
That's what I am.
There's no such thing. But there is such a thing as native cunning. And you're a native, Sergeant, born and bred here.
So are you.
That's why I know what I'm talking about.
You're a gutless bastard.
You can't just barge in here
I
and...
treat you like a bloody servant.
Rather better than that.
Like a bloody servant.
Sometimes you remind me of my husband.
You're late, husband.
Did you say my late husband, Sergeant?
I did.
Perhaps you have information that I don't have.
I rather think it's the other way around.
You've got absolutely no bloody right to come here making
Shut up.
accusations.
Yes, you're very, very like my husband. A bully and a bore.
Your husband was a man.
Look, if you have to insult me, go ahead. But for God's sake, stop trying to justify it in advance.
I don't need to justify it. The reason's already there.
It's already where?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yes, it is, isn't it? And you don't know the answer, do you? You've searched every inch of the countryside. And who knows the fells better than you?
I rather think you might, Mrs. Shelton.
I doubt it. You see, I was never very strong on hunting, shooting, and fishing.
I can't criticize your shooting.
What can you criticize, Sergeant?
Your indoor sports, perhaps.
Oh.
Jealous, Sergeant?
Did you hear a worm turning just then, Sergeant?
I had a worm. The only thing that turned was my stomach.
You're too sensitive.
I've never been called that before.
Now that I can believe.
Don't get too cocky, you bloody male lesbian.
Oh, for heaven's sake, we're not back on that again, are we?
Yes, we are. Tom Shelton was a man.
That, Sergeant, is something you couldn't possibly know anything about.
Oh, you never know, do you, Dot? I mean, rough trade's where you find it.
When it breaks, it'll break through you. You're the one who's going to crack.
You're a very vindictive man, aren't you, Sergeant?
Not vindictive enough to kill somebody.
No?
Tom Shelton loved this countryside. He was good to it, and it was good to him.
Why did he go away, then?
He didn't.
What makes you so sure of that?
Because I knew the man.
His wife didn't, of course.
In some respects, not as well as I did.
Tell your troubles to your friendly neighborhood policeman.
You bloody city people.
Is it a criminal offense, being city people?
No. But there are some things you'll never understand. Certain...
Subtleties.
Yeah, certain subtleties you can't take into account. You can never get inside our minds, can you?
With a mind like yours, who would want to?
What exactly are you trying to say?
Your husband could never have gone away from here.
Except that he did.
No.
8 months ago, he did.
No. Everything your husband had, everything he was, everything he did, it was all here. There's been a Shelton house on this site for 300 years. All those gravestones down in the village, Sheltons, hundreds of them. A man doesn't just walk out on all that, especially a man like your husband.
You're a sentimentalist.
Not me.
And the other side of the sentimental is always brutality.
What do you mean?
Supposing I said I agreed with everything you've just said about Tom. About his sense of tradition, his pride of family,
Oh, people just don't think like that nowadays.
I do wish you'd stop interrupting all the time.
Oh, I bet you do.
Why?
Well, it's a sign of overconfidence, isn't it? Or nerves, maybe. Either way, it's dangerous.
I think you underestimate his intelligence, Sergeant.
That's a risk I'll have to take.
I wish you two had stopped going on as though I was the Invisible Man.
Go and answer it, Val, will you?
Why don't you just let the damn thing...
Go and answer it.
Was that wise?
Was what wise?
Letting him go like that?
Explain that.
Well, he won't be around to hear whatever story you're going to tell me, will he?
Perhaps he knows it already.
Perhaps.
Somebody walking over my grave.
Your grave?
Let's go in, shall we? I think you're right. I think my husband is dead. You find death funny?
Sorry. No, it's just that sometimes I find the living hilarious.
Who was it telephoning?
Usual thing.
Ah. Why don't you answer it, Sergeant?
What?
Just pick up the receiver and say nothing.
It's just a little game we play.
Go on.
We should have complained.
You think so?
Yes.
You hypocrite. You lousy, bloody hypocrite.
How long has this been?
About 4 months.
Same person?
How can you tell on the phone? On a good night, it's only heavy breathing.
Oh,
You'll what? Well, come on, tell us, you sneaking vigilante.
Get the sergeant a drink.
He can go and get his own drink.
You heard what I said. Whiskey, Sergeant?
thank you.
Gin and tonic for me. You're absolutely right, darling, but too loud and too soon.
People. People.
Your stock in trade, Sergeant. You mustn't knock your stock in trade.
Bloody people.
It's much, much easier dealing with foot and mouth disease or the Colorado beetle. I'm told the ancient Chinese based a whole civilization on good manners.
Maybe we should resurrect a few of them and import them here.
I wouldn't talk too glibly about resurrection if I were you.
If you were me, you'd be living in a state of bloody siege. If you were me, you'd be afraid to take the car down the village because of what your native louts do to it. And if you were me, you'd go and get your bloody self finally and totally lost.
If I were you, I might consider that not only necessary, but desirable.
You must come to dinner, Sergeant. What are we having, Val?
Ratatouille.
Thank you.
Tell me something, Sergeant.
Yes?
Were you frightened when I fired at you just now?
I've been shot at before.
On 1,000 different occasions in 12 different countries?
Slight exaggeration.
Oh, we've heard it all night after dreary night. The casino, the western desert.
A lot of good men died there.
Why is it always only the good ones that get killed? Or does getting killed automatically canonize you?
Either way, you're in no danger. I can't expect you to understand. Or him. The war, It had importance. Good things. Things that seemed to me to be disappearing.
Any moment now, we'll have Vera Lynn.
It was a privilege to serve under Mr. Shelton.
Sergeant! You're a very violent man, aren't you?
When I feel deeply about something.
I don't somehow see that as an excuse. I'd like to speak to you alone. See you at dinner, Val.
Yeah, all right. Oh, by the way, Sergeant, do you like ratatouille? You should. It's originally a convict dish, I'm told.
When are you going to grow up?
What are you talking about, Mrs. Shelton?
Hero worship.
Oh, no. No, it wasn't that. We knew each other too closely for that. We used to play together when we were lads. We were together the first time we got drunk. We were in the County 15 together. Together we went through the whole war. Things like that don't make for hero worship.
You knew nothing about him. I think he committed suicide, you know.
And I think that idea is ridiculous.
Why?
Because he had no reason to kill himself. He had no financial problems. He was successful. He liked what he was doing. He had a good-looking wife. He had everything.
Perhaps he felt there were no more worlds to conquer.
I think he was very well contented with the world that he had. I don't believe he walked out of it willingly.
An assisted passage.
Yes.
Well, now we know, don't we?
Unfortunately, not enough.
Do you know why I fired at you this morning?
Perhaps you're getting a little bit edgy.
I wanted to force this confrontation.
Why?
Because I was bored watching you detecting all around the place. Perhaps just a little bit sorry for you.
The lady of the manor.
Prying around everywhere. Searching. Looking. Digging. I wanted to ask you in to do the garden. It's been quite neglected since everybody left.
I'd ask nothing better than to be allowed to dig up your garden.
Be my guest. What you're doing is a kind of persecution, isn't it?
What I'm doing is my job.
But a little excessively, wouldn't you agree? I'm always a little bit suspicious of zeal. It's so often a cloak for other things.
Your husband was a good man.
He was a lout and a bore.
A kind and generous man.
He was mean, brutal, and treacherous.
He was a man.
He was impotent.
Somewhere out there, isn't he?
We're all somewhere out there. Aren't we, Sergeant?
Good shot.
Sign of a misspent youth.
Where did she buy you?
You probably know already.
No. No, I hear most of what goes on in the village, but you've always been a bit of a mystery man.
Well, let's keep it that way.
That sounds like the remark of a man with something to hide. Or should I say with something else to hide?
Your technique's showing.
If I had to make a guess, I'd say you'd had some pansy kind of a job, like dress designing.
You'd be wrong.
Well, that wouldn't be the first time.
Some people have too many talents.
Talents? You?
All right, then, possibilities. Too many options.
And just what options had you?
I'm a competent musician. With a bit of luck,
People make their own luck.
I know that's not true. I used to be a croupier in a gambling club.
What else have you been?
Ship steward, salesman, you name it, I've sold it.
Including yourself?
My soul to the devil, yes.
What did you set out to do?
Catering. I've been a commie waiter, commie chef.
Oh, my congratulations on your convict dish. Ratat...
How are we going to get you back on the beat after my ratatouille?
Ever been convicted?
You know I haven't.
Where did you meet Mrs. Shelton?
In a club in Manchester.
What are you doing there?
Resting.
You make a good team, you and Mrs. Shelton.
We're compatible.
You'd have to be. Now.
Oh, my dear, I love you when you're being enigmatic.
You do that just a bit too well for comfort.
You know, Judith's right. You're very like her husband.
I certainly don't mean that as a compliment.
You're absolutely right. What I meant was you both hide behind the hair on your chest.
Listen, Tom Shelton was...
Yeah, I know. A man.
I'll never get used to people like you.
You're too black and white.
Maybe that's it.
Does it ever occur to you you take a hell of a lot for granted?
Such as?
Judith, her husband, me, yourself. You got us all neatly pigeonholed.
The only thing I take for granted is that you and Mrs. Shelton killed Tom.
Follow that.
I don't know how you did it. And I don't know what you did with him, but that you did do it, I'm absolutely certain.
Well, there's no point in arguing with you.
None whatever.
Judith thinks he committed suicide.
And so she said.
You don't want that to be true, do you?
What I want and what I don't want doesn't come into it.
You're a bloody liar.
We're getting very brave all of a sudden, are we?
I thought you admired that kind of thing.
When it's consistent.
I can't win, can I?
Only at billiards. You don't seriously expect me to believe that Tom Shelton committed suicide?
Why not?
Why haven't we found him?
You haven't been looking in the right bloody place.
Where would that be?
Wherever Tom Shelton decided it should be.
I don't understand that.
And you never will understand it, because you've got the exclusive truth about Tom Shelton.
I never
He was a
said it.
sadistic, twisted maniac.
He was...
Remember his practical jokes?
Well, he liked to joke.
Yeah, and if it ended with someone with a broken ankle or screaming hysterics, so much the better.
What's all this got to do with him committing suicide?
Just this. If he'd made up his mind to do away with himself, he was just the kind of nut to do it in a place where he wouldn't be found, and to do it in a way that would cause the most trouble to everybody.
Oh, come on.
He knew the countryside like the back of his hand, remember?
You took it all, didn't you? You wormed your way into his life. You took his hospitality, his wife.
Do you think he gave a damn about his wife? He knew about Judith and me.
And, of course, he didn't care.
Not only did he not care, he wanted to watch.
That's a bloody lie.
No, it isn't.
As I said, you make a good team.
Did he say that, Val?
Yes.
I'm not quite clear what that means.
I think the suggestion is that we lie in bed at night dreaming up ways of slandering your husband.
Why do that when there are better things to do?
You can say any obscene thing you like, can't you? He's not here to answer back. You murdered him. Now you're trying to murder his reputation.
All right, he was a saint.
He wasn't that either. He was human.
Oh, God, it's too much. Sunday in the parlor. Outside the Sabbath peace of the fells. Inside the lamplight blessing the quiet, gentle faces of the women and the craggy features of the men. Would you favor us with a song, Mr. Ironside? Certainly, Miss Honoria. Darling, press me to your bosom as you did in days of yore. Press your lips upon my forehead ere I reach that golden shore. Life is from me fastly fading. I like that, fastly fading. Soon I'll be in sweet repose. Ere I go, I ask one favor. Lay my head beneath a rose.
His favorite song. You're trying to tell me he's buried in the garden?
It's not a crossword clue.
What happened to him?
What is it that huntsmen shout? Gone away.
Maybe he lost his memory.
Not his memory. His life.
An accident. Drowned in a bog.
He knew the landscape backwards.
But if he was drunk, as he only too frequently was.
It's simpler than all that.
Yes?
He was crazy.
He was nothing of the
He
kind.
was. He was unbalanced, violent, and cruel. He needed another war. Check and see if he volunteered for Vietnam.
You sneering little poof.
Better a puff than a bloody fascist.
You don't know the meaning of the word. Fascist. Tom and I saw the real thing.
And beat them at their own game.
If we hadn't, you and your fancy man might not be here tonight.
Oh, fancy man. Lovely.
What in God's name do you see in a little weed like that?
Do you recall, during the war, Tom shooting 3 Italian prisoners because he couldn't be bothered to do anything else with them? Are you going to deny it happened? He used to boast about it in his cups, as they say, and you were always part of the story. Didn't it sicken you?
No.
Then you're a bloody fascist, too.
Why in God's name do you keep talking about things that you know nothing about? The war, it was... You wouldn't understand.
Did the 3 Italians understand?
Not better than you do, perhaps.
Conscience. Yeah, that's it. All these years, guilt and remorse had been gnawing at him because of the 3 dead Italians. And then one night, something snaps, and he wanders out into the darkness to find peace and absolution.
And the only thing he would have found out there in the darkness would have been Sergeant Hurby.
A dedicated man.
Yes, but dedicated to what?
Snooping.
Dedicated to what, Sergeant?
The truth.
Oh, come on, you don't know.
The truth. Tom is still here.
Well, in that case, we better put a light in the window for him. And who knows, one night he'll come striding back across the fells and...
Don't bother, Sergeant. You can't find them now. You probably know who they are anyway.
I'll get the little bastard.
Oh, and while you're at it, have a word with the local schoolmistress, will you?
What about?
Her pupil's spelling.
Sergeant!
I'll put a stop to all this.
Well, it's a bit bloody late, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. You've been watching this house for months. You must have known what was going on here.
Maybe I did, but this window is something else.
What is it?
Violence.
I suppose you want to reserve all the violence for yourself.
You can't stand competition. You're the lion, aren't you? You're going to make the kill, but with no jackals around when you make it.
Oh,
My God,
make some coffee, Val. Do you want some coffee, Sergeant?
Yes. Thank you.
I suppose you'd like your coffee black and white, too.
He comes to heel well, doesn't he?
Yes, I suppose he does.
Was that the trouble?
What are you talking about?
Your husband, was he too strong for you? Did he stand in your light?
No to both questions.
I don't believe you're speaking the truth.
I am.
I've known you for a long time, haven't I?
You've known who I was for a long time.
Of course, you're always a cut above me. Gentry.
You're full of old-fashioned words. Fancy man, gentry.
I remember your father. He was a great man.
I remember my mother.
First shilling I ever had, your father gave it me.
What you trying to do? Work up to a bribe?
No. What a waste. You and him. Everything that was best in the county.
You're talking about a merger, not a marriage.
You've got very, very hard.
Perhaps that's what mergers do to people.
Where is he? Where is he? Hey? Where is he? I know you murdered him. What have you done with him? Where is he? I've got to know about your husband.
Very well. I'll show you about my husband.
Rats. Very reassuring, don't you think? At least they're still here. That means the ship isn't sinking. You wanted to know about Tom. Come on, then. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Shall I open the door for you? Are you frightened? All right, then. I'll show you about Tom.
I wish I could have seen it. I wish to God I could have seen it.
There are certain jokes.
You didn't enjoy it much, did you?
No, I did not.
Why didn't you enjoy it, Sergeant? Was it because it frightened you? Or because it told you something real about Tom? It was Tom who put it there, you know.
We can check up on these things.
Please do.
You can check with the shop in Lancaster where he bought it.
Or the maid that he nearly frightened to death with it. He sent her down to that cupboard on some pretext or other. She had a heart condition. She was ill for nearly 6 weeks.
That was one of his more pleasant little jokes. If Tom Shelton never appeared again, it'd be no loss to anyone.
That's a dangerous principle.
You married, Sergeant?
No, he isn't.
He should be. Use up all that excess energy. Keep him home at nights.
Married or not, I'd still be trying to catch you.
Chasing promotion.
No. I'm not ambitious. I'm content where I am, among my own people.
Oh, God, what a bloody dreary romantic you are.
Am I one of your people, Sergeant?
Yes,
Then why are you hounding me?
because Tom Shelton was one of my people, too.
And some of them are more equal than others.
When a murder's involved, yes.
So, it's just a simple matter of justice.
Yes.
Devotion to duty.
You said that, not me.
You know, I think Devotion might very well be the answer. But to duty? Well, that's not quite so clear.
Oh, it's perfectly clear. It's devotion to dear old, good old, presumably dead old Tom.
Ah, it's such a waste.
It's bloody madness, if you ask me.
I'll ask Mrs. Shelton. Waste of what?
Devotion. Loyalty. Do you know what Tom's private name for you was?
You tell me.
Lassie.
Why?
After a sheepdog he had once.
I don't believe you.
He used to say all he had to do was go outside and whistle and you'd come a-running.
He despised you.
You were a joke. You made him laugh.
There was a fell race one year. You were the favourite, but you deliberately let him win.
I did not.
That's what he said, and he certainly enjoyed saying it.
And the wrestling bit. How about that?
Wrestling?
Some competition or games. Cumberland style. You were both in the final. He said you were so busy making him look good you'd no time for anyone else or anything else.
He beat me fair and square.
You always let him walk over you. When you were boys, when you were soldiers, when you came back, he's still doing it.
Got you jumping through hoops.
You people. You have no values. I admired the man.
My God, how bloody feudal can you get? A raving sadistic maniac walks all over you and you say, do it again, because it hurts so nicely. Feudal, that's the bloody word for it. For you and all those other idiots down the village. The man that won't fix the television set. The store that won't sell us any groceries. The girls that won't come to work
Because they
here.
know you killed Tom Shelton.
They decided we're guilty till proved guilty.
You've searched everywhere and found nothing.
Because you've been too clever for us. So far.
I insisted on letting the police search the house from cellar to attic.
You knew the body wasn't here.
Why don't you just come and live here? Well, it'd save all that weary journeying to and fro.
I don't find it wearying.
So, the siege goes on.
If that's how you regard it.
Yes, I do. A one-man siege.
I'm not alone in this.
No, but the other policemen are working professionally.
So am I.
No, you're not. You're too involved.
I wonder if that means I'm beginning to get your work.
Judith. There's something I want to say to you.
We have no secrets between us, remember?
I want to go away.
All right.
You don't mind?
No.
But I don't understand.
If
you
you want to go, go, but please, no drama.
No, I'm not making myself clear.
Then I wish you'd try. After all, I'm only a simple country maiden.
Yeah. Like maybe Cleopatra was. But when I said I wanted to go away, I really meant us.
You do take this one flesh business rather seriously, don't you?
Look, darling, what is there here for us? Why should two people have to live like this? Why should we go on?
Because it's my home.
Well, it's not my bloody home. Or even my idea of a home.
Well, you'd better go back to London, hadn't you?
I can't.
I'll give you the money if that's what's bothering you.
When did that ever bother me?
When indeed. It was always somebody else's money anyway.
All right, so I'm a parasite.
No home is complete without one. You homesick for London?
I have been for weeks.
Then you should understand that what you feel for London, I feel for this place.
But look what this place and its bloody natives are doing to you.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It has to matter.
It doesn't, you know. You see, I belong up here. I'm one of them, as Sergeant Hurby pointed out.
I don't know you at all, do I?
No. Are you frightened?
Yes. I'm frightened of this place. I'm frightened of the people. I'm frightened of Sergeant Hurby. And God help me, I'm suddenly frightened of you.
Better go away then, hadn't you?
Will you drive me to the station in the morning?
With pleasure.
I don't think I've ever met anybody like you before.
Thank you.
I don't think I ever will again.
You trying to say that I've spoiled all the other women for you?
Perhaps I am.
Poor Val. I shall try to miss you. You were amusing, decorative, and above average in bed.
You're writing me a reference.
If you need one, I shall be happy to oblige.
I'm running out on you, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Look, I hope you don't think that
no,
means...
I don't think. I always knew that sooner or later you'd run away. In a way, I admire you for it.
Admire?
Yes, you're being absolutely true to yourself.
You're sending me up.
No.
I love you, Judith. What's so bloody funny?
I love you, Judith. Now you're sending yourself up. Did you find them, Sergeant?
No, but when I do, I'll know how to deal with them.
You reminded me not so long ago that I was, what was the word? Gentry.
That was the word.
There are people I could complain to.
People in high places?
You might find yourself in trouble.
I wouldn't be too sure about that.
But you might.
Yes.
You know, the police force is rather like the Roman Catholic Church. It distrusts enthusiasm.
Why don't you ring up the chief constable and have this enthusiast quietly told to get lost?
I'd disregard the order.
Even if it meant suspension.
If they suspended me, I'd still keep on doing what I've been doing.
And if they fired you?
I'd still keep coming.
It's incredible. It's absolutely bloody incredible. Here, come on, Fatso. Before you get corrupted.
You realize what you've just finally admitted?
What?
That this thing has nothing whatever to do with the police.
What has it to do with?
You. Me. Tom Shelton.
What about him?
No, not my fancy man. I think you hated Tom.
That is nonsense.
I think you killed him over and over again in your mind.
I did not.
Always the tail of the kite. He used you, patronized you, laughed at you, bullied you.
I was his friend.
You were his sheepdog. How many little awkwardnesses have you fixed up for him? Little things like drunken driving. It's a psychological truth and a historical truth that slaves always hate their masters, and eventually they become their masters.
Are you saying I've become Tom Shelton?
Yes. You've persuaded yourself that he's dead, and that makes you feel threatened.
You said you and me and Tom Shelton.
Yes.
Where does he come into it? Let's square the triangle.
Don't think it would make any difference.
I have a right to know.
I think you just assume too many rights.
Do you want me to beg?
No. You said just now that I was one of your people.
Yes.
And you're one of mine. We have a special knowledge of each other. I remember in the school holidays when I used to come here. I used to wander around wearing a blue sweater.
It was red.
Yes, it was red. You don't forget, do you, Sergeant?
And your legs were always very brown.
And you used to follow them around wherever they went.
You're a very attractive girl.
The belle of the fells.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, there you were. Accidentally, of course. Watching. Watching. Watching.
Hasn't changed much, has he?
There was one day that I particularly remember. There was this boy. He was one of our house guests. He was the first boy I ever had. I can't even remember his name. Isn't that sad? Well, we'd been experimenting and we were beginning to get the general idea, and we were in this little copse and we made love. I didn't particularly enjoy it. Then it was finished. We were smoking a cigarette. I looked over his shoulder, and there you were, hiding behind a bush, watching. Do you know what I did then, Sergeant? I made the boy make love to me again. And that second time was for you, but not with love. I see you still have the same binoculars.
So you're supposed to be investigating a crime, and all the time you're watching bedroom windows. My God, you're not interested in justice. You're carrying out a vendetta. And you know why? Because you think somebody's killed your boyfriend. All evening you've been putting me down, throwing words at me like, poof, pansy. You're the pansy. All that sweaty wrestling, letting him win, that sergeant is love. Jesus, he was right. He was absolutely bloody right. He called you lassie. Come on, girl. Come on, lassie. This way. Come on. I've got you rough up now. Come on, then. Come on, then. Come on, lassie. Go fetch.
I think you're in trouble, Sergeant. You'd go to any lengths to find out, wouldn't you? Any lengths at all.
Well, I've killed him.
You have indeed. Shall we put him with the other one?